My friends, there is something peculiar about our age. We believe we can sip darkness without swallowing it. We think evil is only dangerous when it comes in horns and red cloaks, but never when it arrives in a smiling paper cup, topped with frothy milk, sprinkled with cinnamon, and stamped with the logo of a grinning mermaid. Evil is far too clever for that. It does not always storm the gates. It often strolls in through the café door. Now, I can already hear the objection. Surely you are not suggesting my morning coffee is a spiritual danger? But let us remember, every habit of the body eventually becomes a habit of the soul, and habits are rarely neutral. The very brand you choose to clasp in your hand each morning is whispering something to you. Sometimes it whispers of convenience, sometimes of vanity, and sometimes of things far worse. So, let us speak plainly. There are coffee brands that do not merely sell you roasted beans, they sell you an idea of life without God. Their slogans are sermons, their logos are symbols, their partnerships are covenants, and whether you realize it or not, you are not only buying coffee, you are buying into their catechism. The first brand thrives on mockery. It prides itself on boldness and rebellion, turning blasphemy into marketing. It serves drinks with names that twist sacred words into punchlines. You might think it harmless, even clever, but every chuckle at holy things is another loosened brick in the fortress of reverence. The second brand has made itself a pulpit for false gospels. Its prophets fuel causes that stand in direct opposition to the ways of Christ. Yet the faithful line up each morning, unwittingly funding the spread of lies. These are not secret donations in dusty ledgers. They are openly boasted on company websites. If you know this and still drink, you are not innocent. The third brand preaches self-worship. It does not invite you to enjoy coffee. It invites you to adore yourself as you drink it. Every advertisement whispers, you are the center of the universe. The cup exists for you. It does not matter if the latte art is beautiful. The liturgy is poison. The fourth brand is the mystic of the marketplace. It laces its imagery with occult symbols, serving as both merchant and missionary for spiritual confusion. The symbols on their cups are not random. They are invitations, subtle enough to pass as harmless, yet ancient enough to carry power. The fifth brand is the most dangerous, because it is the most ordinary. It has no obvious blasphemy, no overt agenda, but it cultivates slavery of a quieter sort, dependence. It teaches you that you cannot function, cannot pray, cannot even exist without its daily offering. It replaces prayer with caffeine, and in time you forget which is truly sustaining you. My friends, the matter is not whether coffee itself is evil. Coffee is a good gift from God, but like all good gifts, it can be corrupted, and often it is. The enemy's delight is not simply to lure you into open sin. It is to train you to love what he loves without realizing you have switched allegiances. So I say again, stop drinking from these cups, not because the beans are bad, but because the story behind them is. And if you cannot imagine your mornings without them, perhaps the hook has already been set deeper than you thought. There is a dangerous naivety in assuming that products are mere products, that the liquid in your cup is isolated from the beliefs, agendas, and values of those who sell it. In truth, every company has a creed, even if they never print it on the package. Some of the most popular coffee brands do not simply sell a beverage, they sell a worldview, and they do so with confidence and pride. They have learned to wrap their ideologies in warmth, aroma, and convenience, knowing full well that what enters through the senses often bypasses the guard of reason. Some openly proclaim causes that run directly against the teachings of Christ, celebrating them as badges of progress and justice. Others take subtler routes, embedding moral distortions into their advertisements, crafting narratives that draw the heart away from the gospel and toward counterfeit hopes. They know that the faithful can be persuaded, not through arguments in books, but through daily rituals. A steaming cup becomes more than a drink, it becomes a pledge of support, whether intentional or not. This is the genius and the deceit of their method. They make you believe you are purchasing only coffee, while in reality you are underwriting a mission. When profits from your purchase are channeled into movements that defy the order God has set, you have joined in the work, however quietly. The hand that swipes your payment card is linked to the hand that crafts the campaigns, the slogans, the policies. And when these brands align themselves with moral darkness, there is no neutral ground for the believer. Your money does not become magically neutral once it leaves your wallet. It travels, it works, it speaks. It can build hospitals, or it can fund idols. It can feed the poor, or it can fuel rebellion. The troubling fact is that many Christians know the affiliations of these brands and still choose to drink. Some shrug, claiming their individual purchase is too small to matter. Others comfort themselves with the thought that they do not personally share the brand's values. But this is like claiming you can board a ship bound for destruction while insisting you will not share in the fate of the passengers. The destination is determined by the captain, not by your private opinion of the voyage. When you buy from these brands, you are boarding their vessel and contributing to its fare. The scriptures warn us against partnering with the works of darkness, and yet these partnerships are often sealed casually over a café counter. To dismiss this as overreaction is to underestimate the cunning of the enemy, who rarely demands open allegiance at the start. He is content to begin with small compromises, especially those that feel harmless. And what could be more harmless than coffee? Yet it is precisely this disguise that makes it so effective as a channel for influence. While we debate whether a cup can carry moral weight, the brand has already deposited its profits into the treasury of its cause. The faithful must see beyond the foam and the flavor to the machinery behind the counter. This is not about personal taste. It is about stewardship, about the quiet yet potent witness of what we choose to support. Every purchase is a seed sown into a field, and fields bring forth fruit in kind. If the soil is poisoned, the harvest will be as well. The believer who shrugs at this truth may find they have been watering weeds all along, helping to spread them into the very garden they were called to keep. Logos, slogans, and symbols are not neutral ornaments. They are messages wrapped in imagery, condensed into shapes and colors that bypass intellect and sink directly into the imagination. Long before you can articulate what they mean, they have already whispered something to your heart. This is why empires have always marked their coins, banners, and seals, and why brands do the same today. The coffee cup in your hand is not only a vessel for a beverage, it is a small billboard you carry through the streets, a sermon you preach without words. The company knows this, which is why they choose their imagery with meticulous care. Every curve of a logo, every word of a slogan, every symbol printed on the cup is designed to evoke a story, a value system, a loyalty. Sometimes these messages are harmless, even good, but sometimes they are infused with ideas that pull in the opposite direction of truth. The most effective lies are the ones you never notice entering your mind, because they ride in on the back of beauty or cleverness. An elegant design can hide a dangerous creed, a playful phrase can plant a mocking attitude toward holy things, and an ancient symbol can carry the weight of spiritual rebellion while being passed off as quaint or exotic. People often dismiss concerns about such imagery, insisting that symbols are meaningless unless we assign meaning to them. But history and scripture both disagree. Symbols hold power precisely because they condense meaning into a form that speaks without words. The golden calf was not a mere statue, it was a declaration. The serpent lifted in the wilderness was not a simple carving, it was a sign pointing to salvation. To believe that modern symbols are immune to this reality is to believe that human nature has somehow changed. It has not. When a brand chooses a mermaid, an eye, a pentagram, or a twisted cross as its emblem, it is not doing so by accident. These are deliberate choices, often rooted in history, myth, or ideology. Even if you, as a customer, do not understand the origin, the imagery still works upon you through familiarity and repetition. Over time, it can normalize what once would have seemed strange or even repulsive. Likewise, slogans are not empty phrases, they are miniature creeds. When you read them day after day, they form grooves in your thinking, teaching you to measure life according to their standard. You deserve it. Indulge yourself. Awaken your spirit. These are not merely sales lines, they are invitations to adopt a world, you in which you are the center and pleasure is the goal. Such ideas may seem harmless in isolation, but repeated in the rhythm of daily consumption, they shape desires, priorities, and even beliefs. When this shaping runs counter to the truth of God, the danger is real. The believer must recognize that carrying such a brand's imagery into the world is not a neutral act. You may not intend to advertise their creed, but you are doing so nonetheless, lending your hands to their message. Even if you disagree with the values behind the imagery, your participation in its display strengthens its presence in the public imagination. In a culture where the line between commerce and worship is increasingly thin, the faithful must be vigilant about what symbols they endorse and what messages they amplify. A cup of coffee may seem like a small thing, but small things, repeated daily, form the architecture of thought and affection. What you hold in your hand is often what you hold in your heart, and what you hold before the eyes of others is often what you teach without speaking. Dependence has a subtle way of disguising itself as harmless routine. It begins as a preference, grows into a habit, and then becomes a necessity so quietly that you hardly notice the shift. Among the many things people come to depend on, coffee has a unique place. It does not merely energize the body, it shapes the rhythm of life. The moment your feet touch the floor in the morning, you reach for the familiar cup, and without it, the day feels incomplete, almost unlivable. There is nothing inherently wrong with enjoying a drink, but when that drink is tied to a particular brand, something deeper is at work. The brand begins to offer not just a product, but an identity. Its colors, slogans, and rituals become woven into your daily life until you find yourself emotionally tethered to it. You look forward to the first sip not only because of its taste, but because it has become your comfort, your focus, your reward. Slowly, without noticing, the place that should belong to God alone, the role of sustaining, satisfying, and centering your life, is partially handed over to a commercial entity. Prayer becomes optional, but the morning run to the café is non-negotiable. Scripture becomes flexible in your schedule, but the coffee stop is fixed. You begin to measure the quality of your day by the presence or absence of this brand in it. This is where dependence crosses from harmless to harmful. It is no longer about caffeine, it is about allegiance. When you cannot imagine joy, peace, or productivity without the product, you have allowed it to occupy the space of trust and reliance that belongs to God. The brand has succeeded in making itself indispensable, and in doing so, it has become, in a quiet and culturally acceptable way, an idol. Idolatry in modern life rarely wears the form of carved statues. More often, it looks like habits so ingrained that we cannot imagine life without them, even though they give us nothing eternal in return. A brand that fosters this kind of attachment wields more control over you than you realize. It dictates when you leave the house, how you spend your money, and even how you feel about yourself. The danger deepens when this dependence is reinforced through community. Entire friendships and social routines can revolve around a shared brand. The café becomes a gathering place, the cup a badge of belonging, the ritual a shared liturgy. This makes stepping away from it not just a personal inconvenience, but a social disruption, further cementing the brand's grip. Over time, this quiet form of slavery is normalized, even celebrated. People laugh about not being able to function without their coffee, not realizing they are confessing bondage in jest. The truth is, anything we claim we cannot live without apart from God has claimed too much of us. The soul begins to lean on it, the way it was meant to lean on prayer, worship, and the Word. And when the soul leans on the wrong thing, it eventually warps under the weight. Dependence on a brand does not only drain your money, it drains your capacity for spiritual discipline. The more you run to it for comfort, energy, and stability, the less you train yourself to run to God for those same things. The brand becomes a false vine, offering a quick and temporary fruit that leaves you thirsty again within hours. It offers you the illusion of strength while quietly deepening your weakness. What began as a pleasant part of life ends as something you feel powerless to refuse, and in that powerless feeling, the brand finds its greatest victory over you.